At her senior living facility, sick mom met a new friend named Auntie who offered to take care of her prescriptions. I put cameras and witnessed her abusing my mother in this way. My 70-year-old mother, who is 40 years old, has been on hospice for a long time. She lived in an independent living complex with apartments for the elderly. I thought she had been living there for 6 or 7 months and had made a few casual friends among the elderly, but she had mostly kept to herself. A woman approached us and my mother a few weeks back while my boys and I were visiting her. We live down the street and visit there frequently. When I approached to introduce myself, the woman rejected the handshake and embraced me instead, saying, "Oh, I only give hugs to family, and we're pretty much family." Okay, that's a little strange coming from someone I've never met before and haven't even heard of her, but I essentially ignore it, assuming she's simply lonely or something. When I asked my mother about this new acquaintance, she simply stated that they met at an aged care home and that she had been a wonderful friend to her ever since. Excellent. I enjoy it when my mother has friends. Having friends is important. However, I'm not sure why. But this woman continues to send me odd emotions. I find a few things weird. 1. This new acquaintance chose to live with my mother, who is relocating to a more normal apartment complex this weekend, because she adored the new one. She has not completed her flat yet. However, she will be moving next month to the same building as my mother. 2. They had only known each other for about 2 months when she allegedly stole my mother's dog. For Christmas, I received a hoodie from the best aunt ever. 3. I'm not sure why, but she phoned me the other day as well, presumably to give me her phone number and properly introduce herself. She mentioned taking care of my mother frequently, and I responded, "Oh, I can manage her medications for her if you want, despite my gratitude for the offer." It may be best for them to just focus on being friends rather than her straining herself trying to care for her, because there are numerous controlled medications and hospice tries to keep as few people engaged in the medication process as possible. She went straight to my mother and made it appear as if I was gossiping about my own mother, saying things like she's just an exhausting person and other similar things. My new friend lied when I challenged her about going to my mom and disclosing our private conversation in a prejudiced manner, claiming that my mother had confiscated her phone and read all of the text messages. Instead of texting, it was done via phone. I knew it wouldn't go anywhere, so I dropped it when she stammered when I mentioned there were no texts. 4. When I call my mother, I can hear this woman telling her what to say or making comments. And, while none of this is overtly troubling, I feel as if I can't speak with anyone other than my mother. I prefer to think the best of others and am quite trusting. Furthermore, this woman has been extremely friendly to me during our chats, and I have no specific reason to doubt her motives. I can't get the feeling that something is wrong, though. I told my mom about my feelings for this new acquaintance yesterday, and she wasn't defensive at all. She argued with me, claiming that her new friend is simply being nice and offering to assist with tasks since she knows my mother isn't the most organized person and could use the aid. I begged with my mother to be cautious, to gently create the connection, to keep it just that, a friendship, and to let me, her true family, handle the caregiving. Even though my mother's medicines have not changed, she has been acting more erratic recently and appears to have stopped taking them, but I only give her 1 pill at a time and keep the others locked away, so it isn't that. However, I took my mother's credit and debit cards just to be safe because she has been more confused lately, and I don't want anyone to take advantage of her money. If it isn't money or medicine, could you please tell me what this woman stands to gain by getting in my mother's way? I'm not sure how to conduct a background check or if it is legal for anyone to do so. However, I conducted some research on this new friend on a few websites and discovered that she had a lot of other names, but I couldn't find anything else. We are in California, and if anyone knows of any good ones, I will pay for a background check. Is anyone else concerned about this, or am I being overprotective of my mother? Oh, I almost forgot. The other day I contacted one of my mother's oldest and closest friends to see whether she had met his new buddy and, if so, what she thought. I'm not sure why, but I just have a bad feeling about her, she stated openly. She appears to be up to no good, in my opinion. I felt better after hearing this since I realized I wasn't the only one who had seen anything, but I'm not sure what to do now. Update 1. I genuinely appreciate all of your responses and great suggestions. I apologize for the extended absence following my initial article, but there have been a lot of things going on. To comprehend everything and deal with the continual blows of real life, I needed to take a break. I went to chat with my mother shortly after my last post. She agreed to let me put 2 cameras in her flat after I expressed my concerns. I was taking my kids back to my house on moving day, so I was out of the apartment for a brief time when I accessed the camera app to check the settings. I overheard the friend and my mother discussing me. It wasn't pleasant, and it appeared that the buddy was merely laying the stage to disrupt my relationship with my mother. My mother was heavily involved in it. When I returned to the apartment, the friend, I'll call her Fran for convenience, had left. But I had a disagreement with my mother. I was crying as I told her how upsetting it is to hear my own mother engage in a demeaning debate about me, given everything I have done and will continue to do for her. It was awful, she and I both sobbed. In the end, however, I had persuaded her that Fran was not acting appropriately. Mom decided to create some distance between herself and Fran, and she immediately told Fran that she could no longer act in such a way toward me, and that she was not permitted to talk anything about me. Fran claimed to understand and offered me a lame reason for her conduct, which I did not believe for a moment. After a week or two of peace and quiet, I called my mother one morning to check how she was. I noticed she was out doing errands with Fran. After probing for further information, I discovered that Fran had brought my mother to the bank to receive a new debit card. Fran was well aware that I had stolen my mother's debit card with her permission, because she was having increasing episodes of dementia and had no idea who or what she was spending the money for. My mother failed to give me her old debit card. For me, that was the final straw. I texted Fran the following evening. "Hello, Fran. I just wanted to let you know that, while I understand my mother cherishes your connection, I don't enjoy you becoming involved in things you have no business doing. She told me you two were heading to the bank today to get a card. Mom and I manage her finances jointly, so we don't need any aid, no matter how well-intentioned, to get her in order. To ensure that she has access to the items she requires and no one else does, she has asked me to take her new card and put me as the principal account holder. I'd want to believe you're sincerely trying to help my mother, but when money is involved, friendships become much more difficult. It works for us since I handle all of my mother's financial and medical requirements. Although my mother appreciates your friendship, she does not require care. I am capable of providing it. If you actually want to be her friend, you should take 10 giant steps back and consider how you come across to me. Because in my opinion, it appears that you are straddling the line of elder abuse, and while I'm sure you wouldn't want me to call the police, that is precisely what will happen if things keep going in this direction." Fran had a cliched response that was similar to, "Oh my word, I merely wanted to assist your mom, and I would never take advantage of anybody, etc. Oh, and I believe that I am to blame for our poor start, daughter. But I would like to start afresh." More blah. I never really responded to Fran, and she has, surprise, stopped contacting my mother. We'll see whether she emerges from the shadows again, though, as I think she is scheduled to move into the apartment complex this weekend. I believe she realizes that I can see right through her attempts to distance herself from my mom, and that she will have to concentrate her efforts on con artists elsewhere. I also informed my mother's social worker and hospice nurses. I also purchased a really clever pill dispenser. I won't mention anything since I'm not endorsing anything, but please don't hesitate to contact me if you need assistance with drug management for any family members. It's pricey and certainly out of reach for many people, but for me, being able to keep my mom's medications organized and safe has changed everything. I receive notifications each time it distributes a pill, since that is secured and connects to an app. The fact that Fran had no access to my mom's prescription drugs at all gave me a lot of relief, but the trip to the bank made it clear to me what Fran was after. I informed the bank that Fran could be with my mother. They must get in touch with me right away. Overall, I believe that most of you are right. Fran was either trying to use my mom for financial gain or was already doing so, but I was fortunate enough to catch her before any harm was done. I believe she is avoiding me since I have made my stance on Fran quite apparent. My mom claims that Fran will be working at the independent living facility when she leaves, so I believe I still need to get in touch with them regarding my worries about her. I promise I'm not making this up. Furthermore, I don't want her to be able to exploit other people. Once again, I want to thank everyone who responded and contacted me with information or guidance. I read all of the responses, and I even read many to my mother. Seeing Fran for who she truly is was a huge boost to her. September 30th, 2024, Update 2. I appreciate everyone who consistently asks me how my mom is doing and whether there have been any developments. All things considered, my mom is still receiving hospice care and is doing well. Although she has her good and bad days, I'm thankful that she has been coherent for the most part lately. F has mainly gone missing. Thankfully, I've urged her to beat it without hesitation ever since. Since then, the only time I've heard from her is when F phoned me and left a message asking how my mom was doing because her phone wasn't functioning. I let her read. Therefore, even though my mom claims to have cut her out entirely, that indicated to me that she hasn't. However, I have taken control of any opportunity F could have to use my mother, with my mother's approval. I informed the social worker and hospice nurses, and I also informed F that I had done so. Additionally, my mom at last met some better friends who live close by and helped watch over her for me. I told F that I wouldn't think twice about going to the police if given a reason, but I didn't go since I didn't think I had a case. I'll keep you all updated if F returns to my mom's company, or if I have any further suspicions. However, my mom is protected right now since I manage all of her medications and funds, making it impossible for anybody to try to take anything away from her. I appreciate everyone's attention and caring. They want her medications, according to the comments in which Auntie responded, Snoo Ideas 8483. Yes, I had the same notion, which is why I firmly locked them away. In order to monitor her medicine at all times, my mom consented to having a camera placed just over her dispenser. In addition to being quite nice, the gizmo I gave her sends me a text message if the door is ever unlocked. Not that it could be, given even my mother is unaware of the passcode. Therefore, several measures are in place to guarantee that anyone ever gets into any of her belongings. The next tale. After refusing to bless my fiancé and giving him 2 rejections, Dad broke off communication. Currently, he claims that he will only attend my wedding if I refuse to have my stepdad lead me down the aisle. My fiancé, 21M, and I, 23F, became engaged a few months ago. We are ecstatic, but my father declined to approve, and as a result, he is not only not attending my wedding but is also severing all of our communication. The worst thing? He is bringing his entire family with him. I'm beginning to question whether I'm the villain in this situation. Let me clarify. My dad and I have never been particularly close. I hardly recall my parents together after they split when I was a baby. My stepdad has been a good father figure ever since my mom remarried when I was 4 years old. I grew up largely with my mom, my brother, and my stepdad because she had 80% custody. We all got along really well. Regarding my dad, we had a good but shallow connection. I saw him once a week, and every other weekend he lived 2 minutes from my mom's place. Although I stopped going as frequently once I became 18, we would still periodically get together for dinner, perhaps once or twice a month. The problem is that I started dating my fiancé Arch when I was 22 and he was 20. We were close friends right away after meeting in a youth group. Some people may think it's quick, but when you know, you know. My life would be impossible without him. Arch wanted to get okay from my dad, my mom, and my stepdad before popping the question. My parents were overjoyed and instantly bestowed their blessings. But my father wasn't as helpful. Even though he was retired and had plenty of spare time, he avoided Arch for weeks. My father arrived with 2 printed letters, one for Arch and one for me, indicating that he would not grant his blessing when they eventually met. He handed out the letters without even allowing Arch to ask the inquiry. Additionally, he called Arch's request for my stepfather's approval absurd and mocked it. Arch stood up for my stepdad, but it was too late. After some prodding, he told me what had transpired when he got home in a distressed state. I felt insulted and upset, especially when he downplayed my stepdad's importance in my life. I met my dad at a park to discuss things after I had calmed down for a few days. It didn't work out. My father informed me that neither he nor his family would be attending the wedding. I asked him straight out, "You won't attend the wedding if I get engaged?" "No," he responded bluntly. "Are you saying you want nothing to do with me if I go through with this?" I inquired. His answer? "I'm not." Sweating. At that point, I became agitated. Up until that moment, I was keeping my composure, but his lack of concern really wounded me. Perhaps he would change his mind if we waited another 2 years to get engaged. He said at the end of the talk that he would not be involved in any manner or pay for the wedding. Arch made the proposal a few days later. It was a wonderful evening. Our family were present save for my dad and his fiancée, and everything was ideal. We made social media posts about it. There was also total radio silence from my dad's side as friends and relatives greeted us with congratulations. I began questioning myself. Perhaps I had acted too quickly? Perhaps I was at fault? I thus made contact with him. I sent him a sincere text message letting him know that he is my father and that I wanted him to be my father's man at my wedding. His answer? He requested my email address. I gave it to him, bewildered. I got a lengthy, really emotional email a few hours later. He said that I had insulted him and ruined what ought to have been a memorable moment between a father and daughter. He said that Arch and I were to blame for our relationship's breakdown and that it would require a great deal of work to mend it. "But you got exactly what you wanted," he said in closing. "We are being supported by Arch's family, my mom and my stepdad. Since my dad pulled out, my mom and stepdad have volunteered to cover the wedding expenses. Although organizing the wedding has been enjoyable, this whole issue has made me wonder if I am truly at fault. Thus, Reddit AITA for proceeding with my engagement and wedding arrangements in spite of my father's disapproval? Since there have been several comments about this, change one has been made. For him and his family, money is not a problem. Therefore, he is not attempting to avoid paying for the wedding, and the 2 years of waiting have nothing to do with saving. He has been in retirement for a long time. Edit 2, since I am unable to respond to every remark that mentions this, I will post it here. I suppose out of respect, I wanted my fiancé to ask my parents. Although we saw it as a means of including them in this next phase of life, rather than as a request for his consent to marry me, I always found it to be a charming gesture. I apologize, but I'm not sure how to put it into words. In addition, my mom and his relationship was always quite cordial, and I would even say that they have been friends for the entirety of my life. My mom and stepdad would bring him and his fiancée to our gatherings, and there were never any arguments, at least not in front of my brother and me. I can make some educated guesses as to why they got divorced, but I'm not positive. It simply wasn't a topic of conversation. I should also note that, contrary to what some commentators have said, they decided on custody on their own and avoided a legal struggle. He moved out and lived 2 minutes away, so there was never a custody battle. My mom didn't want his money, so there was also never a struggle over it. All she wanted was to remain home and celebrate Christmas with us. Remarks to which the operator has responded, information, or one: did your parents get married when you were young? No. I'm not very young. However, they were married really quickly. After 11 months, my mom wedded her current spouse, whom she had known since I was 4 years old. He told me it wasn't really about that when I brought it up to him during our lengthy conversation to see if that was his explanation. On whether the argument may have been caused by her father's fiancé. I don't know why, but it's possible. Before all of this, she and I had a wonderful relationship. Though they weren't particularly close, they always looked forward to seeing each other. Since all of this, I haven't heard from her. Could you tell me what the potential issue was that her father wasn't telling her? I ask myself the same question. I believe that he initially sought the blessings of my mother and stepfather. I've spoken to my fiancé, my mother, his parents, and a few other individuals who may be seen as mentors to us, and I believe he believes we're too young to make sure we are making the correct choices and to maintain a strong marriage and relationship. We participate in couples therapy. Was and her father really that close? Oh, I see. I have always respected and cherished him as my father, even if we are not close. I've always wanted to have a father-daughter dance with him and my stepdad after they accompany me down the aisle. His reaction to all of this information has me even more perplexed. 28th September 2024. I hadn't spoken to my dad since this whole event happened, which was around 4 months ago, until a few days ago. I had his notifications turned off, so I didn't immediately notice when he contacted me. I literally dropped everything when I finally noticed it as I was leaving work. My Celsius and the lip liner that came out of my purse. You will be missed. I am messaging you because we need to talk, he wrote in his message. I considered not answering at all, but ultimately my worry, and, let's face it, my peace of mind won out. I responded to the text by saying that I'm willing to talk, as long as it's focused on the future, and not on the past. The next day we planned a call. He begins the call by declaring that his love for me hasn't altered. Almost instantly after that, he shifts to talking about how angry and unhappy he is that he had to initiate contact. What? Then he inquired as to whether a wedding date had been chosen. In the hopes that he might alter his mind, I informed him that it would be late next year. However, no. He then said, "Do you have a venue?" Yes, I replied. His response: "Thus, this is taking place. Of course, I'm not telling any family members not to travel. They can decide to do so, since no one in the family is aware of my perspective." I attempted to convey that there are other viewpoints. With the exception of my grandmother, who has made it clear that she supports him, I don't have a close relationship with that side of the family. He interrupted me, stating that he didn't want to spend. I inquired. "It depends on how I'm treated," he said. Right now, I'm in complete awe. I had never treated him disrespectfully, so I asked him to explain. Then all was revealed. He believes it would be utterly insulting to him if I allowed both him and my stepdad to accompany me down the aisle, since he feels deserving of the title of father of the bride. He continued by emphasizing that my biological father, my stepfather, should never have been sought for his approval because it was not his. The only way he would think about attending the wedding is if he were given the respect he merits as the bride's father. The worst part was that he told me my mom needed to contact him to discuss everything. All right? My mother, however, is not amenable to that. She is guarding her peace by not calling him, which is understandable, as she ought to. He may pick up the phone and tell her directly if he wants to speak with her. I'm still in shock. I had every intention of inviting him at first, but now, I am at a loss for words. It feels so screwed up all over. My mom and stepdad are furious, as are the parents of my fiancé. To be honest, I have no idea. I didn't anticipate providing an update at all, much less this quickly. However, here we are. Since that call, I haven't spoken to him, and I'm considering sending him a letter. But before I make a decision, I want to spend a few days to collect myself. I'll provide another update if I do send anything. This is the current situation.